Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and I'm here with Erica L. Ayala and Terrika Foster-Brasby. And they're making me feel like I should add my middle name to my name because I don't have three cool names like you guys. But I'm so happy to be talking with all of you. I've been waiting for this show. We have so much to talk about. But first, Erica, you're in Milan for the Winter Olympics. We need to know what is going on there, what it's like. Give us the vibes.
That's right. So it's a good afternoon for y'all, but buonasera here in Milano. This is day 5 of the women's ice hockey tournament. So we've got the United States playing tonight and then a big USA-Canada match tomorrow. But the weather has been nice for the most part. We get a little bit of sun every day here in Milan. I'm not up in the mountains, but it looks beautiful there. They've gotten some snow since we've been here, but the vibes are good. The Italian vibes are very good. There's been some great competition, and I'm excited to talk through it, y'all.
Yeah, we're going to be giving a hockey preview a little bit later. So really looking forward to talking about that. I'm also like, the food in Italy, like what?
Ooh.
Like I already know it's
Okay.
good.
Wait, since you brought it up,
Yes.
we found like this little place that is quite literally run like it looks like a little church basement kitchen, you know, like after you go downstairs to eat after Sunday school type vibes. It's a nonna. She cooks late dinner and it's right by our hotel. It is so good. I will make sure to send y'all photos.
Yeah, send me the location too, because I'm going to Italy soon at some point. But definitely having FOMO now because you've been watching some incredible Olympic sports. I mean, let's talk Breezy Johnson. What a story. Got the first gold medal of the Olympics in downhill skiing, won by the smallest margin ever outside of a tie in 2014 with 0.04 seconds. Really, honestly, this story is what the Olympics are all about. Terrika, when you watched this, what were your thoughts on her winning the gold?
Like literally one of the best feel-good stories and feel-good moments of the weekend, right? If you know anything about what Breezy's kind of gone through, then you have to know that this gold medal came on a course that literally took something from her back in 2022. She crashed on this court doing a training run, right? So she injured her knee. The injury kept her out of the Beijing Games. So when you fast forward to now to see that she's back on the same mountain, same venue, standing at the top of the podium with a gold medal, granted it broke, but it's still a gold medal, to come and really just deliver this type of performance with that small of a margin just really shows her confidence. And I just think it couldn't have come at a bigger moment.
Yeah, and having this be the first medal, the first gold medal for Team USA. Erica, what was the buzz in Milan around the time when she made this history?
Well, I mean, like Terrika said, it's a huge individual accomplishment. It is, you know, we love the medal trackers every Olympics. So being able to notch that was fantastic. And of course, there was a lot of buzz coming into this Olympics, a lot of storylines that we've talked about here on We Need to Talk Now with regard to alpine skiing in particular. And, you know, I think that the story that a lot of people were telling prior to the Olympics is not the story that we're telling now. And that's okay. I think that's 100% okay. And it goes to show that, you know, it's the smallest of margins in sports. And for me, nothing illuminates that like the Winter Games, for better or for worse. But I think Breezy Johnson's story is amazing. It is unfortunate that her medal broke. We've had a few little snafus. And I'm like, you know, I'm not really going to toss shade at the organizing committee. I'm just going to say that it is because these athletes are partying so hard. Like, what is it? What is even the celebration after you win Olympic gold? I don't know, but I'm imagining is pretty epic.
Yeah, listen, if I won gold, I'd be carrying it with me everywhere. I probably would break it as well. But what an incredible story that Breezy has. Unfortunately, a story that is not so incredible is the fact that Lindsey Vonn was injured in her run. She had to be life flighted out after she clipped something while she was skiing. It really had nothing to do with the ACL tear that she already had. It's very important to point that out. And unfortunately, she had a fracture in her leg, which she has since had surgery on. Something you never want to report on, Terrika, something you never want to see, but certainly a conversation that people are having now.
I know. And this conversation is so completely predictable because in our last episode, just a week ago, I had just said that this was the conversation people were going to have if she didn't medal or she didn't finish, that people were going to ask, why is she even choosing to compete? And that's exactly the discourse that we're seeing at this moment. And to your point, what keeps getting ignored is the reality that the crash itself had nothing to do with her knee. She clipped a gate just, within seconds of leaving the start house. And that's a racing incident. Like, that's an incident that can happen to anyone at any level, despite what your health may or may not be. But of course, social media is going to do what social media does, which is be loud and oftentimes wrong. But I think what stood out to me has been the support that she's received from her fellow skiers. They understand the risk. They understand the preparation that goes into moments like this. And Lindsey Vonn is a grown woman, right? She's a grown woman. She's one of the greatest to ever do it. She made a decision that she felt was best for her. And it was not a decision that she made overnight. Like, she trained for this opportunity. She consulted experts. She felt ready. She looked good coming into it, the confidence that she had. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where accidents happens in sports. But I hate the way that this is or has already turned into one of those she shouldn't have been there a conversation. Like, if she believed that she could compete, she did the right thing by competing.
Absolutely. And when you look at, the scope of the competitors that day, there were more. She wasn't the only one who also fell, who I should say crashed, unfortunately. So, and they didn't have a torn ACL either. It's just like you said, something that happens to skiers when they ski. Unfortunately, it's part of a competition. I just have to give a shout out before we go into break. Mathilde Gramont, who we had interviewed right here, and you can go to our YouTube channel to check it out if you want to. But she defended her slopestyle title. And so she got the gold in freestyle skiing, and it was amazing to see. She denied Elaine Gu for the gold for a second straight Winter Games. I hate that there's like winner and loser sometimes because they all work so hard, especially 4 years going into this. But congratulations to her for defending the title. And when we come back, we're definitely going to get into some hockey, which I know Erica is so excited to talk about. So stay tuned and come back after this break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. And as promised, we're going to get into some hockey right now. The Team USA women's hockey team is doing their thing. They beat Czechia 5-1 in the opening game. Finland 5-0. So a little O in there. In the second game, Hillary Knight, who I talked about in our last show, had a goal in each of the first two games, has tied the U.S. Olympic women's hockey career goal mark. Alex Carpenter has opened up the scoring in each of the USA's first two games and leads Team USA with 2 goals. Some incredible hockey coming out of this Team USA women's team. Erica, what do you like about this team right now as we're in the Olympics?
Yeah, they are firing on all cylinders. The conversation coming into this games was especially comparative to Canada that chose to pick from players that were already pros. The United States has some young talent, including Layla Edwards, who we've had on the program, and they're combining that youth movement with some of the tried and true. As you can see here, Hillary Knight is now tied with Hockey Hall of Famer, might I add, Natalie Darwitz, as well as Katie King, who has been coaching at Boston College for a number of years. And so there's a lot of storylines. Hillary Knight in her 5th and final Olympics. And when I'm talking to the coaches from Team USA, every game we've had someone in maybe their first or second Olympics, like a Haley Skamura in game 1, or a Taylor Heisey in game 2, really step up. And that's, I think, because this team was built very intentionally to mix younger rising talent with tried and true battle-tested veterans.
Yeah, Terrika, in the last show, you talked about that, how it was going to be a difference and it was going to show. And what are your thoughts when you see what Team USA is doing with what they've put together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Erica hit on all points. I also want to give a shout out to Michigander Megan Keller. She had a couple of goals, a couple of assists in those earlier matchups, specifically in the shootout. The shutout. Why can't I speak today? The shutout against Finland. So shout out to her. But I really like the way that this offense have been really balanced. Right, they've really found some depth with that young group that they have. So we've seen the contributions. I think that's something that's going to continue to help them as they continue to try to be dominant. We'll see when they get up against Canada, but at least for the matchup today against Switzerland, it does feel like that dominance will continue from that youth in that young lineup. And definitely want to give a shout out to Erin Frankel. I think how she has goaltended, she's been very strong, very, very confident, right? In the approach that she's had. She's been solid. I think she's only given up one goal, right? So I think it's incredibly important to just recognize that this USA team came in with the expectation to be dominated. So far in group play, they have been.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned Switzerland. The next two opponents for Team USA is Switzerland and Canada. What are you looking for in these matchups, Erica? Because I'm going to be glued to my television. I know that's right.
Well, I love that Terrika mentioned Erin Frankel, and especially knowing that there are back-to-back games with Canada being the second game of a back-to-back. The first thing I'm looking to see is if maybe we see Gwyneth Phillips. Is the United States going to give another goaltender this start to then have their presumptive number one, as Terrika broke down, Erin Frankel, be the starting netminder in the game against Canada? Both teams, Canada and the U.S., will be going back to back as Canada has a game earlier tonight. Now, Switzerland, their goaltender, who was not their number one, because unfortunately neurovirus has been going around in the women's ice hockey tournament. There was a postponement between Finland and Canada. So the starter for Switzerland, the goaltender, she didn't even go. And their second goaltender, 55 shots faced against Canada and only let up 4 goals. That is a huge Olympic performance there. So Switzerland is a team that they can get really good goaltending. They got a shootout win against Czechia. They were losing that game late in the third period, got an equalizer to send it to overtime. So Switzerland has also been a team that we've seen medal in the Olympics. So they're not a slouch team. Unfortunately, they have been dealing with some illness. So we'll see if that impacts them. But what I'm looking for, again, is that United States-Canada team. How are these two teams going to be strategic, knowing that they play tonight, but the big game in the preliminaries, which is likely a gold medal preview, is happening tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if I can just add one quick thing, Erica, there's just one thing that I love that you mentioned, and that is just that Switzerland is no slouch, because they can score if you let them hang around. That's what happened.
100%.
They let them hang around. So their position in the standing really isn't as strong as the U.S., but they are a scrappy team. So do not count
100%. Yes, and they are laser focused on, they want to hit the podium. When I asked them, what were you saying in the third period when you were down a goal? And I spoke to their captain, Laura Stalder, and Alina Mueller, who was a young phenom for that Swiss team. And both of them separately told me, we didn't have to say anything. Everyone knew what we needed to get done. And it was actually their 20-year-old, Ivana Way, who got that game winner, just celebrated her 20th birthday on February 4th and gets that win for Switzerland. So that's a huge win. I also would be remiss if I didn't shout out. Now, we've already had Layla Edwards make her debut, as well as Sophie Jakes, who plays alongside Sarah Nurse. But tomorrow in the U.S. versus Canada game, it will be the first time that not just in the same tournament, but on the same ice, we have multiple Black women playing in this women's Olympic ice hockey tournament. Layla Edwards, we've had on the program. She is the first ever Black woman to represent the United States, first at the senior national team, now at the Olympics. Sarah Nurse made that history in 2018, and now she has her teammate, defender Sophie Jakes, along for the ride.
Listen, there's so much to watch in these Olympics. It's one thing after another. I absolutely love it. I can't even imagine being there. And since we have some time, I definitely wanted to talk about the gold in team skate. Everybody loves watching, ice skating. I mean, I've talked about it that I used to dabble back in the day. Absolutely loved being a little ice skater until I got a little too tall to ice skate. But watching the team skate, watching the gold being won there, Terrika, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, first off, figure skating that is the one sport that I think collectively everyone always waits and looks forward to. And there was so many high expectations for Team USA this year, which has been a very long time since folks have really been this high on Team USA. But, Eliana Milano has been somebody who has truly brought the life to the US team. And so for him to be the one to push the Team USA over the edge and get that gold medal was super fun and important to watch. He had a great program. He threw in some extra triple axels and some trickery and fun. But a lot of people have been talking about his backflip, and I just want the people to know that the backflip was illegal for a very long time. It literally just became legal again in 2024. But you have got to know that when it comes to that backflip, the first person that comes to mind is Surya Bonaly. Surya Bonaly did that backflip illegally on one leg at the 1998 Winter Games. Okay, so when we talk about doing some trickery and mind you, it wasn't even necessary to her program, but she did it anyway just to prove the point, because there are so many nuances and so many little customs that are associated with figure skating. And one of those things when it comes to women is the daintiness of it. It is the not necessarily being the person to do things out of a feminine type of role or a feminine type idea. And Surya wanted to prove the point that we could do whatever we want in the way that we want and still be graceful and beautiful and still nail it. And so even though the move was illegal in 1998, she did it and she nailed it. And I love that now, here it is almost 30 years, is it 30 years later? I can't count, nearly 30 years later. People are still trying and doing things that folks may seem to be a bit taboo on the ice. So shout out to Team USA.
Shout out to Team USA. And when we get back, we're going to pivot to a little basketball and gymnastics. So come back after this break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay here with Erica Ayala and Terrika Foster-Brasby, and we're going to get into some basketball, which we all love to talk about. So just get ready. But before we really get into the nitty-gritty of the WNBA CBA, we have to give a shout out. I mean, NYU, you did that. They broke the D3 record with 82 consecutive wins, which is just absolutely amazing. They broke the record held by rivals Washington University, which won 81 games from 1998 to 2001. During the 82 wins, only 4 teams got within single digits of the Violets, which is insane. UConn currently holds the overall NCAA record with a 111 game win streak and the second longest streak of 90 games. So they're looking to win the 5th straight UAA conference title in a 3rd straight national championship, which is just phenomenal. So we got to give you a shout out. I mean, listen, that is a long-standing thing to do, and you're still doing it. So shouts out to you for sure, NYU. But now we got to talk CBA, you guys. There's a lot going on there. There was something that happened this week that we need to talk about specifically, and that was some, I guess, requests that happened with the CBA. And Terrika, I think there's a little confusion about where these requests came from. So maybe you could clear that up for everybody.
Yeah, earlier this week after a conversation that was had between the players on last Monday, a week ago from today. As a matter of fact, there was a conversation between the players union and the league, and there were quite a few people who were at that meeting. It was a 3-hour meeting, and after that meeting was over, there was a release of some information around some of the things that the league was offering, like some concessions, but as well as some other items that were going to be included in that proposal. And of course, some of the things on that list were a little odd. We were like, are you for real? Like, have these things were not already being offered? But I did have an opportunity to chat with a source who is very close to the negotiations, very close to the proposals that are being made. And, you know, these were all things that the players asked for, right? Now, of course, these are things that you would also say to yourself, well, why wasn't the league already providing those things? But I do think that it's clear that these were not things that the league just kind of threw in there frivolously, that these were things that the players had previously mentioned that they wanted. And though they may seem small, you know, they are things that were specifically requested by the players. And so I think it's fair to know not to really toss those things to the side or just say the league is kind of making up stuff, because it really wasn't like that according to the source.
Well, and it's important to note that some of those things were things like WNBA League Pass, family room, family rooms for the players, you know,
things that already should exist, right?
Tickets for players' families, those types of things. So it was alarming to see those in there, especially after, you know, from the outside looking in, right? After the talks that have been having and that have been done, and to see those things were included in this pass were rather alarming because, like you said, they should have already been included. Those are things that are very easy to include. So I have no
idea why League Pass would not be something that players, I mean, maybe I don't know. I am not going to speak on behalf of the league, but like, what were you thinking, that maybe they didn't need a league pass because they already play in the games? Like, I don't know. It just feels like something that you really shouldn't have to speak on. And then I know that in certain teams, some of the things that was being requested, some teams already do. And so it could also be one of those things where we just need this to be a league-wide standard and not necessarily something that some players are benefiting from because some teams do it. Like, some teams do offer family rooms for their players and when their players come, and it's not even a second thought. It makes you wonder, why are some other teams not offering these things? But I do think it makes sense to make those basic things league-wide standards so that everybody understands that they should be on the same level playing field with that.
And just to chime in there, when you mentioned that, I'm thinking about Seattle. So I'm very much still in hockey brain. I got a hockey game I'll be at later today. But when I'm in Seattle covering hockey, and sometimes it overlaps with basketball, the family room is right off the media room. It's right there for the Kraken, I should say, which is the NHL team. And there's a similar room set up on the other side because the locker rooms are on the other side of Climate Pledge Arena. But so again, is that a standards issue? But I think also it brings into a conversation, not just standards as far as what the players should have access to, but when the league is expanding, which we know it has done in the past handful of seasons and will continue to do once we know how this CBA goes. Those things, I think, are probably where the players are coming from. And we've heard the players say this. We've heard the Players Association say that they are not a part of those conversations when it comes to expansion, and they want to express what they hope are going to be the standards moving forward. Now, I have heard from Terry Carmichael Jackson in the past that certain expansion teams or teams looking to bid for expansion have reached out on their own to the players or Players Association to just kind of do an inquiry, what are good practices. But if it's not standard, that's what some of this reporting and what we're hearing. To me, I think this is something that the players are trying to ingrain, is to get some of these things to standard. And we've seen that play out. We've seen that play out in some of the conversations with some of the franchises that exist in the league now.
Yeah, and I just think that it is a shame that we're talking about getting up to standard when in actuality, this CBA is something that is, and I believe will be, groundbreaking for the players. but it shouldn't be something that gets them to the standard. It should be something that gets them to where they always should have been and where they deserve to be in the future, right? Like it's building along with the building, but it's not something that is just building to the standard. That's
Right.
that's an issue for me. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, for real.
we'll definitely keep you updated on everything CBA. But before we go into the next break, we have to give another shout out to Jordan Childs. She is doing her dang thing when it comes to gymnastics right now. I mean, she always has, but she's trying to get that perfect 10 record. It's really important to know that she has already said on levels like, I'm going for it. This is something that I want. She needs 13 perfect 10s to get the record and has done 4 recently, 4 additional perfect 10s recently. And so, yeah, we're with you, Jordan. We want to see you break that record too. And you're doing it. Perfect 10 after perfect 10. I don't know if you all been seeing the clips, but she is not playing around. And
I love it. And also the shout out to Prince against Minnesota. Like, come, well, let's go.
Yeah, she had a Prince routine that was out of this world. So look it up if you haven't seen it. Got a perfect 10 for that. And she's rolling with the perfect 10. So come on, Jordan, we with you. And we're with you right here on We Need to Talk Now. So make sure that you're with us and come back after this break.
Okay, transition.
Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. Sometimes I wish y'all could see what we talk about in the breaks, but we're going to keep it right there. It's hilarious, though. We should have a whole show just on our breaks. That's all I have to say.
What a raspberry beret. Hey,
Oh my God.
Hey.
All right. All right. Well, you may not be able to hear what we talk about in our breaks, but right now you're going to hear some guarantees in this week's Guarantee of the Week presented by AT&T. And we're going to talk a little bit about bracketology in this guarantee. And what I want to know from both of you, and we'll start with you, Terrika, is what's one guarantee that you have that stems from this week's AP poll, or I'm sorry, not the AP poll, but the bracketology? What's one guarantee that you have that stems from the bracketology of this week?
The easiest guarantee that there is that UConn is going to get the overall #1 seed because what? Like everything else is so unpredictable. I think you can kind of say, that the other #1s will most likely be South Carolina, UCLA, and Texas. Like I feel like that is a solid thing to go on. But UConn's dominance this season, and we've talked about this, Alicia, it is way more than just what you guys play in the Big East or you don't have. No, like this team is for real. And so I think it's quite solid that team is going to be the overall #1 seed. You're going to have to go through UConn to win anything, and that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I don't like agreeing with Terrika, but I mean, that is the guarantee 100%. I also think, Alicia, it's interesting. I know you and I have talked about Iowa, and we were like people saying maybe they should be jockeying for a #1 seed. I didn't see it at the time. I didn't see it. I think they're looking solid, but maybe the team that we should be talking about is this Michigan team, because that UCLA Michigan game was something else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my kind of like observation about bracketology is I think it's important. We have to have these conversations as we go into March Madness and as we, further on down the road when it comes to women's college basketball. But I think this whole bracket is going to be completely different as we near the women's Final Four. And we'll be talking about that in our last segment about 3 big things that are coming up. But, it's hard for me to, I want to say I take it seriously, but it's hard for me to look at it right now because I know that it's going to be different. You have all these teams that are really just coming for each other every week. And I think a lot of the teams right now are locking in on different levels. There's a lot of teams that I would liken to like the Aces this year that really had to go through a lot to build to a lot, right? And I just think that a lot of these teams are just right on the cusp of being greater than the person above them. And they're figuring it out right now. And they're taking those losses and turning them into a win that will sustain them throughout the tournament. And so that is what my kind of like take on it is right now. Of course, I'm looking at it. Of course, I'm having conversations about it with people, but I just think it's going to look far different for sure. Yeah. Or do you guys have any other observations?
Possible.
Yep.
Yeah, my bad, Alicia. Maybe I should let the
No.
host do her job.
No, but you know what? Say what you want to say because I want to hear it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think it's interesting that you put it that way too, because as much as we talk about thought had it figured out and still like we're still questioning like what's going. One of the teams that come to mind is Tennessee, right? Like I thought Tennessee was a team that like would have it figured out by now, and they still have some ups and downs throughout the season that makes me question some things. And so I'm wondering what a team like that I believed expectantly coming into this season. We thought, you know, the SEC is one of those conferences, and the SEC is one of them ones, right? And yet a team like Tennessee that literally started a little higher in the AP polls that have now at this moment found themselves down to like 17, 18 and kind of have been like hanging around. What needs to happen for them to figure it out before they get into conference tournament time and eventually into the NCAA tournament? So, well, hopefully into the NCAA tournament. So yeah, we just got to kind of keep our eyes out both ways.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Schaefer, you know, he coaches for Texas, obviously. He told us we got something to figure out. And that is something about Rory Harmon. He said, with Rory Harmon, I'm frustrated more than anything because I think the kid deserves way more. I've had some really good players in my career, but I haven't had anyone like her. And he was talking specifically about Rory Harmon, obviously. The statistics demand that people give her credit. That's it. At the end of the day, the stats are the stats. Give me a break. It frustrates the heck out of me. He said a different word, but I don't know if we can say it out here. So I'm going to say the heck out of me. So I'll toot that horn from now on until she's done. And it's important to note that Rory became Texas's all-time steals leader in the game against LSU, is also the Longhorns' all-time assist leader as well. When you hear what Coach Schaefer had to say, Erica, what are your thoughts? Because I was like, please cape for your player. I love when coaches do that. But also, do you think it's deserved?
I mean, listen, this is a player that you just rattled off some of what she's been able to do for the program alone. And I think that Rory Harmon is one of those players, you know, we were talking about that aces mentality of having a really bad loss and then bouncing back. And Rory Harmon, we've seen Madison Booker also take responsibility, whether it's this season, even last year, those two leaders, Rory Harmon, you know, earlier this year, was not efficient offensively and made sure to focus on that in the next big matchup for this Texas team. And so I think you're looking at leadership. You're looking at someone that is always trying to elevate and expand their game. I mean, Texas plays a certain way, and they are, you know, that mid-range game for them is something that a Rory Harmon, you know, it continues to try to expand and to be better for this Texas team. But, you know, the stats don't lie when it comes to what she's been able to do for the program. And I do think that should matter. Now, of course, Coach Schaefer is going to say that. And like, all right, coach, we got to keep it a buck. There's a lot of great talent in the NCAA right now. And I'm not mad, though, because sometimes you do need to focus the attention. We've seen this in pro women's basketball. You know, Sandy Brondello was like, oh, so everybody's going to talk about the officiating. I guess I got to do this too. So sometimes it's also, as I like to say, gamesmanship to put his player in a good headspace to just be like you said, Alicia, oh, coach got my back. But also when you talk about your players in that way, it can, again, refocus some votes, some people who do vote on certain Player of the Year awards, and it brings attention to a team, and rightfully so, to a player in Rory Harmon, I would say.
Yeah. Well, Coach certainly caught our attention, and we're going to catch your attention when we come back, because we have 3 big things that we need to talk about in women's college basketball. So we'll see you after the break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T, and we're going to keep this basketball conversation going, specifically women's college basketball. And, you know, I talked about 3 big things. We're actually going to answer 3 big questions, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. The first one, what is a team outside of UConn that you think is the best in the country right now? Terrika, let us know.
I've got to go South Carolina. Like that seems to be the obvious, at least the obvious to me. They've got the size, they've got the athleticism, they can dominate on both ends of the floor. Defensively, we know how suffocating they can be. They always got some playmakers. And then, of course, this is Dawn Staley, right? Coach Dawn Staley has just continued to build a culture of winning within this South Carolina program, where she prides herself on toughness and consistency. And I just feel like them in this moment, having been here before, having done this before, and having lost last year, when it comes to being a complete team that really can beat anybody on any given night, South Carolina. So South Carolina to me is easily the next best team in the country outside of UConn.
Erica, would you say the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to disagree there. I think you can definitely look to what UCLA is doing in conference. Again, I do think that early out the gate, there were questions about the Bruins, especially because they went on such a dominant run early. And then to not replicate that, you know, we have a story coming out on CBSSports.com where we're going to break this down. But I do think some people, they drew attention away from UCLA because they lost some games early, but they're dominating. They did survive, I would say, a game against Michigan, but I think they're a solid team as well.
Yeah, definitely a solid team. I myself was going to go, and I am going to go with South Carolina as well. And I think that South Carolina is a perfect example of one of the teams that I was talking about, where they went through some things, but those things are teaching them what they need to know down the stretch. They also have Alicia Jay, and Dawn Staley said that she's looking very unafraid in the little bit of time that she's played for South Carolina. And I like her addition. I think it was perfect timing for her to come in where they're at right now. And I definitely see them as a top team going into, March Madness, or even just right now, currently, just a top team. And I know they're in the top 4, so people would say, oh, that's pretty simple, for you to say this, and that is pretty safe, but it's just true. It's just absolutely true. And so definitely looking at South Carolina as we go down the stretch. Now, we've talked about a team that we think is the best in the country, but what about a team that would be a surprise in the tournament? And Erica, I'll start with you because I'm really eager to know who you think.
I feel like I've already talked about this team, and it's probably a little bit of recency bias because I have been focused on the Big Ten for most of the season. But for all of the reasons that I said, UCLA is a solid team. I think y'all still nailed it with South Carolina. The fact that, though, Michigan, who is a team that has been saying all season, y'all better put some respect on our name, they dang near took that to overtime. And I like what they're able to do in transition. They're able to do really well on the offensive boards, specifically when we're looking at how they measure up in the Big Ten conference. So their transition game, they're able to spread defenses with some of the players that they have, and I think they're a team that is going to be exciting to watch. I think, and they're going to be tested in the Big Ten. I think they were, whether you're looking at the media or coaches poll, a lot of people had them in the top 5, maybe 4, maybe 5, but for them to be jockeying for, a top spot alongside UCLA and the Ohio State University, I think they could be a team that, they have to lick the wounds of not being able to get it done against UCLA. And does that become something that motivates them on top of the fact that they've probably been overlooked for a majority of this NCAA season?
Well, I agree with you on that. And I think Vanderbilt personally is one that I wanted to throw in there as well. They're 22-2 overall. Yeah, they're not undefeated still. That was the big story for them. But, I just think that they could definitely make waves, and they have some really big competition coming up, Texas and Oklahoma. So we'll know more after that, but definitely looking to them. And Terrika, before we go, because we're running out of time, we got to make sure we get this third question in. What is a team that I know. I'm just going to throw this at you. A team not in the top 4 that you think could make the Final Four.
Oh,
man.
Just
be a quick answer.
Yes, quick answer for me would be a team currently not in the top 4. I think you touched on it with Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt is a team that has played incredibly well all season. For the longest of time, we're one of the few undefeated teams that were still out here alongside UConn. So I do think that Vanderbilt could definitely be a team to make the top 4, but I'm not going to let Erica slide. Alicia, don't kill me. But Michigan State is the team that people need to not sleep on that could really make a run in the finals in the NCAA tournament. You're talking about Michigan, but I need you to make sure you show some love to the other team in the state in East Lansing, because they look good. Robin Fralick has them playing incredibly well. So don't sleep on the Spartans.
I ain't mad.
And right before that, I'm not mad at it either, but right before that, I was going to say, look at us agreeing on this show today, and then we end like that, but that's fine. That's why we're all here.
She had to, had to stick and move always.
I had to.
And I'm here for it.
My fellow Detroiters would have killed me had I not mentioned that.
Write that one in your portfolio. You get that one. You get that one.
Oh my goodness. We'll have to talk about the Padfolio later because we're running out of time, but thank you for joining us right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T, and we'll see you next week. Padfolio.